This is going to be a video on how I stay motivated, stay positive, and maintain the work-life balance to achieve all the things that I want both in my career and my personal life. The first step is not a new or fresh idea. In fact, it's a time tested idea that I've come across several times in my own life in a few different ways. The first time was when I was 19 and I read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And there was a lot of things that happened leading up to that point, lots of ups and downs. But the important thing for me is that when I read that book, it was a huge turning point in my life from just kind of surviving to really and truly thriving. And even since then, as I've encountered different challenges, as I move through the different phases of my life, as I go through those ups and downs, it's always helped me kind of bring it back and climb my way back up into a thriving state. In Seven Habits, they call this idea simply being proactive about the person you're going to be by predefining who you plan to be. Some years later, I found another more fun version of the concept in the book Super Better when I was trying to learn a little bit more about how I could use gamification to help not just me thrive, but help those around me thrive as well. In that version, they call it making your essentially superhero alter ego, which is just the best version of yourself, a version of yourself that you could be super proud of. And then when you're in times of stress or distress or whatever it may be, times you want to be thriving, you just call upon that alter ego and become that alter ego to kind of get through it. In any case, the overall goal is to kind of define a pattern of how you want to live your life. For example, back when I was 19, my brand was only three core principles: to be honest, reliable, and trustworthy. When I looked outward at other people, those were kind of the traits that I saw in the people that I admired. And then as I grew and went through more phases in life, I added flexibility to that because many of the colleagues and mentors and parents who I admired were flexible, and a lot of the people who I didn't admire weren't. For the most important parts of my life, like my marriage, my kids, my career, I even have additional taglines. For example, as a business analyst, my tagline was simple: because I was there, it was better. And by it, I meant everything. It could be a program, a project, a meeting, even an email. Usually I did this by going just a little bit further, taking that little extra step or going that extra mile to make artifacts or learn facilitation techniques that not just help people understand things more clearly, but understand things more quickly, which allowed us to, one, have less meetings, have fewer email back and forth, and of course, less development rework. Once I created my brand, it was time to practice living up to it. And this means actively practicing, like deciding how I'm gonna react to certain situations, reflecting on situations that maybe have already happened, and thinking about how I could have, maybe behaved differently, made better decisions to better live up to the brand that I've created. A good example for me is a big part of my brand is maintaining a certain level of fitness, because to me that's a way that I maintain my reliability, because I was always that friend that if you needed me or if you needed somebody to come run a 5K with you to help motivate you and keep you in shape, then I wanted to be the guy that you could rely on to do that, which meant I had to kind of keep like a bottom threshold of fitness. And so over the years, I had to figure out, how am I going to maintain that fitness? What decisions could I make to ensure that I'm always at the level that I want to be? At the moment, that means I work out at a minimum 3 times a week. And that means I'm never really thinking to myself, should I work out? That's never really a debate that happens in my head, in the same way that most people don't debate whether they should brush their teeth. It's just something that needs to happen, and you just need to figure out when you're going to get it done in a timely manner. For me, that's manifested over the years in that, my main workouts, the way I like to work out, is usually something around 45 minutes, never really more than an hour. However, I don't always have 45 minutes or an hour. And so I have versions of my workout that are 20 minutes. I have versions of my workout that are 10 minutes. I have versions that I could do at my home gym. I have versions that I could do at my work gym. I have versions that I could do with no equipment at all. And so there's never a question of whether I can work out or whether I should work out. I just am always able to work out because that is a part of my brand, and I've figured out and practiced how to make sure I'm able to accomplish that and execute on that every single time. At work, as a business analyst or a user experience designer, and now as a manager, it helps me in my decision-making process. Anytime I'm thinking, oh, should I, could I, would I, it's just does it match your brand? If yes, then you absolutely should do it, and really stop debating it. Just go ahead and do it. There are scenarios where, maybe there's an artifact you can make to make something a little bit more clear, or maybe you're thinking about, or there's something that you've thought of and you're in a meeting with 10 people, but all those 10 people are your superiors, and you're not sure if you should speak up. In my case, it's really simple. I just ask myself, what would a reliable business analyst who makes everything he's a part of better or more efficient do, right? And over time, you can stop asking yourself that question because it's just going to be automatic. But in the beginning, this is what you do. You bring up that alter ego and say, what would that person do? And whatever that person would do is what you should be doing now. An important thing to note is that the goal of doing this isn't to win every situation you're in. Instead, it's to be proud of the person you've chosen to be in every situation. And as you kind of see the results or the fruits of those decisions, you'll start to be more proud of who you are. You might find it even more fun to try to master essentially being this brand or alter ego that you've created for yourself. You may also find that the brand that you've chosen maybe some years back is no longer giving you the results or is no longer the person you want to be, in which case you just change it. This isn't something that's some decree that's written in stone. It's really just your current North Star to kind of guide you on where you should be going for the next step in your life. The final and critical factor for me to stay motivated and in staying positive and maintaining that work-life balance is really taking care to manage how I spend my energy. Now, energy can be divided up in all kinds of different complicated ways. You could talk about your actual physical energy, like how much can you lift or how far can you run and how fast can you run and things like that. It could be your mental energy, like how disciplined you could be about doing something, or your emotional energy, like how many frustrating things can you deal with before you just totally melt down. But I found that all these things are so intertwined that there's really no point in subdividing them. Something that's physically draining can impact you mentally or emotionally, and something that's emotionally draining can impact you mentally and physically. So instead, I just lump them all together as your energy. And I boil it down to the idea that I have a finite amount of energy. I don't have infinite energy. And everything that I actively do expends that energy. And the only way to kind of gain that energy back is to rest, plain and simple. To keep things simple for myself, I categorize energy expenditure into three pretty simple categories. The first is expending energy to further my brand. This means making that little bit of extra effort to be a good leader, a good sibling, a good spouse, a good friend, a good father, a good business analyst, a good designer, etc. Whatever it is. And the important thing to note is if you're not actively like making the decision to spend time here, then you're pretty much failing to be the person who you want to be. Second is spending energy specifically to increase my capacity, my energy capacity, or in other words, building myself up. It could be things like your actual physical capacity, like exercising so you have a little bit more endurance or a little bit more strength so you could get more done. It could be things like learning different skills so you could be more efficient in tasks that you do regularly, like, maybe learning some advanced Excel techniques so that way, analysis that you're doing on a regular basis could be done in just a few minutes instead of taking hours counting line by line or whatever it may be that you're doing. The point is, this is energy that you're using to make it so you could have more energy later. And more energy later means maybe you could do more of a thing. Maybe it takes you less time to do a thing so you could spend your energy doing other things, whatever it is. But the goal is to increase your overall capacity, even if that means increasing your capacity so you could take more time to rest and recover. The last category I have for spending your energy is spending your energy negatively. These are spending your energy in ways that aren't really helping you build your brand, aren't helping you build your capacity, and are just generally draining and just not making you feel good. These could be things like wishing your circumstances were better, speculating on unpredictable things, or just wallowing in negative feelings. Like maybe you're sad about something or angry about something, and you just want to think about it and punch walls and whatever it is that you do when you're in those feelings. Those are all negative ways to spend your energy. An important part of negative energy expenditure is recognizing when you're doing it. I think most of us can, if you just think about the last time you were upset or angry or sad, you could probably imagine how it physically felt to be in those emotions. For some people, maybe you're getting flushed in the face. I know for me personally, I usually feel that little pit in my stomach. And as soon as I have that feeling, then I just know something is wrong and I need to figure out what it is and resolve it. Sometimes it could be really quick and I could recognize what it is right away. Like maybe you got, stuck doom scrolling on social media, bad article after negative article. And as soon as I get that pit in my stomach, I'm like, oh, wait, what are you doing? Stop that. Go do something else. Or sometimes, you're just a little in too deep. You're in your emotions. Maybe you don't know exactly why just yet. And you're unable to kind of think about it objectively. In those scenarios, I just take a step back go do something that I know will check a box in either, boosting my brand or boosting my energy capacity. And usually that's something that'll boost my mood as well because I feel good about checking off, one of those boxes. And then once I kind of get lifted up, then I could go back to my problem, think about it a little bit more objectively, and not only am I now in a better place to solve the problem, I've also either boosted my capacity or boosted my brand. To kind of sum it all up, by defining my brand or my superhero alter ego, I kind of create some clarity on the things that I should be focusing on for myself and kind of what things that I don't necessarily need to prioritize, which takes a huge mental load off of trying to be everything the world either is pressuring us to be or is making us feel guilty of not being. And by actively practicing and living up to my brand and seeing those results, I kind of create the motivation and the drive to keep getting better at it because you're mastering something and you could feel yourself getting better, and it just makes you want to keep on going and keep trying. And finally, by protecting how I spend my energy, it allows me to have the capacity to do the things that I want and that are most important to me. Hopefully, you found that interesting or insightful or helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you have some other things that maybe you've done in your life to help you stay motivated, stay positive, and keep a good work life balance, let me know in the comments. I would like to learn from you all as well, and we could all learn from each other. And once again, thanks for watching.